Alright, so this is going to be another movie review. This one's called Addio Zio, Tom. Part of my Italian. 1971. Over 2 hours long. I watched the on Blue Underground. I showed you the disc on my last video, and I missed. They're actually Italian directors. In fact, both directors and writers were two of the directors and writers in Mondo Cane, which I really disliked. I was reading the Roger Ebert review of this flick, and I guess the directors, writers, the Italian dudes were trying to impress Roger Ebert by making a movie about slavery, because their previous movie had been labeled as racist by Roger Ebert. I forget the name of the movie. Let me see if I can pull it up here. I have not seen their previous movie. And I have to say, I'm not a fan of Mondo at all. Mondo film, documentary film, Italian stuff. Not my cup of tea at all. There was a halfway decent one with Boris Karloff. I can't remember the name of it. But anyways, they trying to pull it up here. The Africa Addio, which I don't believe I've seen, or maybe I have. Come to think of it, now that I pull up the name Africa Addio, it may have been something that I'd seen, like, I don't know, 8-9 years ago. Who knows? But let me see if I've actually reviewed Africa Addio. Nope. I did Mondo Cane 2, Brutes and Savages, but no Africa Addio. Anyways, so this one they talk about the bourgeois, and they try to hype all these militant black power guys like Eldridge Cleaver, Leroy Jones, Stokely Carmichael. You know, the black power. And they even mixed Malcolm X together with these dudes. The ending is like a fantasy of reenactment of William Styron's The Confessions of Nat Turner. It's pretty wild. And a lot of cheap gore effects towards the end. It's really, this movie is crazy. It is a Canon flick, by the way. It was distributed by Canon in the United States. And that's why I have it on my Netflix queue. In fact, the next two movies are Canon. I've got Crucible of Horror. When Father Was Away on Business. Both of those are Canon flicks. I just realized Goodbye Uncle Tom is, or this, the infamous Addio Zio Tom. Um, yeah, so it's got the Black Power stuff, and it's got the bourgeois. The narrator mentions the bourgeoisie. I'm assuming it's one of the Italian directors who's the narrator, and the writing is so inane and ridiculous that it's kind of interspersed with all this craziness. And yeah, it's not as gut-wrenching as, say, Salo or Cannibal Holocaust, mind you, but there are some rather young-looking Haitian girls without any clothes on. I don't know what that's about. Now, Roger Ebert correctly describes this as an exploitation movie dressed up as an anti-racist movie or something like that. I don't know why they were trying to impress Roger Ebert in the first place. I mean, if I was doing these kind of movies back in the day, I would not perceive Roger Ebert reviews to be part of my target audience. Okay, this movie is just completely crazy. I mean, you got a midget with a whip that's getting these Haitian people to dance, and Roger Ebert said that the Haitians were underpaid, and therefore it was the equivalent of slavery the way they were treated on this film. It was kind of a dumb thing to say by Roger Ebert. I mean, how can you compare slavery to paying somebody to be in a film? That doesn't make any sense to me. I didn't get the Roger Ebert review. I thought it was awful, and this movie is just it's got all the depravity and the brutality, the violence that went along with slavery in the United States. They should have done more to characterize all the brutal Civil War and the amount of debt that accumulated here in the United States due to the Civil War, and all the million people who died. I think they could have spent some effort on that, but being exploitation people, I'm looking at the Japanese DVD cover, which I think is also the DVD cover that they used on Netflix for this one. I got the Blue Underground version, which is the uncut director's version. Gene Siskel said that it was that he put it second behind The Last House on the Left on the vomit meter on his year-end list of sickest films he saw in 1972. I guess this one came out a year earlier in Italy, and then Cannon distributed it a year later in the United States. But man, they tried to make this anti-racist, but it came across in certain parts as racist. Because there's this Jewish professor dude who's like conducting these weird experiments on slaves, and then you got the impregnating the slaves so that they'll breed like rats, that kind of thing. You got the slave ship with the rats all over the place, naked bodies all sweaty and stuff. Anyways, it's pretty nuts the way they it's just one brutal scene after another of just violence and depravity, over 2 hours long, 136 minutes running time, and it's just you got to see this flick. I posted the link to the uncut directors. Yeah, I did a review of Mondo Cane. I really hated that one. Actually, Roger Ebert was accurate again when he described Mondo Cane as kind of a staged documentary kind of thing. It looked more National Geographic. I noticed one of the reviews for Goodbye Uncle Tom, Addio Zio Tom, said that this one had the young natives getting all naked, and reminded him of National Geographic. They are quite naked in this one, I have to admit. A lot of full frontal and of Haitian people, and man, both sexes too. Guys hanging upside down. I think that's on the Japanese DVD cover, Spike Adventure. And what else? What else can I say about this? It's just it's weird. I don't know why they mixed up Malcolm X with these Black Power dudes. I guess he was that way in the beginning, but he kind of switched gears towards the end before he died. He became more of like an individualist. He wanted blacks or black African Americans, whatever you want to call them. He wanted them to. They were called Negroes during the 60s and 70s, and that's what they referred to in this one. But yeah, Malcolm X was more of a self-help type guy, kind of guy. He wanted his people to be self-reliant, entrepreneurial, and things like that. He was more into that towards the end. Of course, they didn't bother to mention that. And he hated white liberals, especially. I think he was more critical of white liberals towards the end also. So I think Malcolm X saw the light, and he was beginning to find the best way for empowerment and individualism rather than groupthink. So, yeah. I think I mentioned in my last video, David Duke claimed the film was a Jewish conspiracy to incite blacks to violence against whites, like racial warfare. I don't know if that's the case. It was a critical and commercial failure, but later on it became a cult classic. The nude scenes are just ridiculous. I mean, did slaves really run around naked 99% of the time? Pretty intense depiction of the antebellum South by the exploitation Italian dudes behind Mondo Cane. I don't know. I got them mixed up with Chilean directors for some reason. My last video. Sorry about that. Anyways, if you want to see the director's cut, the uncut version, I posted a link in the description box. It is on YouTube, and it is over 2 hours long. If you have the time. I also posted the Australian trailer, believe it or not, in the description box. So if you click on the drop down in the description box, you'll see those two links. And yeah, I put in some pretty good hours. 5 hours, 45 minutes tonight. I kept messing up my route. My boxes to other drivers. So it took me about an hour to load up my van. I had to drive to San Mateo, which was about 24 miles, I think. Something like that. And I ended up in Redwood City. 18 stops, so pretty decent earnings tonight. I hope I can continue it tomorrow. And yeah, this one's highly recommended. Check it out. You can watch the director's cut by clicking on the link in the description box, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's just an onslaught, relentless images of debauchery, violence, cruelty, punishment, you name it. It's definitely an eye-opener if the way these directors portray the slave trade. And I think they were trying to go over the top to impress Roger Ebert, who thought they were racist. And even after they did this movie, they were called criticized as having a film that was again racist, which is kind of odd because they're like promoting all these Black Power people. They got the hippies, and you see a couple of gals with hairy armpits. There's one hippie with hairy armpits, and then you got the Haitian gal in the love nest, the breeding quarters, I guess. She's got hairy armpits with the kind of curly hairs, but nonetheless, you can pretty much see it. They don't make movies like this anymore. Let me just put it to you that way. And definitely a throwback movie from 1971. Cool stuff. Love it. Let's see. I've got Crucible of Horror with Michael Goff. Open this up. See if the disc is good. Oh, here it is. Got it. There it is. Crucible of Horror. Cool. Good stuff. I'll check that one out. That's 1970. Came out the year before, rated R. And we'll see how that goes. I'll probably watch it on Sunday. But yeah, I think I covered everything. I mean, once they get off the slave ship, they get sanitized heavily. They got all this inbreeding stuff and churches that promote slave trade. They don't spare any any way of not offending somebody by watching this, but like I said, it didn't really make my gut wrench like it did when I watched Salo and Cannibal Holocaust. It's kind of tame stuff. Like one reviewer said, it's like watching National Geographic, which is how I felt when I watched Mondo Cane. Not so much this one, actually. But anyways, highly recommended. Check it out. There's a lot of stuff in this movie, and kind of moves back and forth between present and past. And you've got the really bizarre black midget with his whip, getting all these naked Haitians to dance with his whip. It's kind of like watching a science fiction movie. It's just completely surreal and my kind of flick. I don't know what else to say about it. Just click on the link in the description box and see for yourself. Laters.